Hi, I'm Richard Maraj, Senior Minister at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center, and I want to thank you for visiting our website and for tuning in to today's message. If you feel inspired by today's talk, I really encourage you to make a donation by hitting that button below and making a contribution to this ministry. It'll allow us to continue these messages online and to do the great work we do here at Unity of Phoenix, which is to inspire people to live better lives. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for your support, and we hope to see you at a Sunday real soon.
So how many people have ever had a time in your life where you felt like you were under a lot of pressure? Anybody? Anybody? And how many people have ever allowed the pressure of other people, whether it's friends or family members or folks at work, to get you to do something you didn't want to do or to be something that wasn't true to yourself? Anybody? And how many people here have ever put a lot of pressure on yourself? Anybody? And the fact is, we have to deal with a lot of different pressures in our lives. Family pressure, societal pressure, pressure from our friends, pressure in our career. Every area of our lives has some form of pressure. The pressure to perform, the pressure to conform, the pressure to always be ourselves. Sometimes in unity, sometimes there's a pressure to always feel good and always be positive. There's financial pressures. The pressure of taking care of our families, taking care of our children, taking care of sometimes our parents, taking care of sometimes our grandparents. The pressure to get good grades, the pressure to go to college, the pressure to pay back your college loan. We have all kinds of different pressures. Pressures to look a certain way. The constant pressure of having to lose weight and to look thin. The pressure to look young and stay young. There's all kinds of pressures of keeping up with the Joneses, pressure about how culture and society says you should be. Right now I'm experiencing some societal pressure because my Christmas tree is still up. And so that people come to my house and they say, "Hey, your Christmas tree's still up." And I said, "Yeah, I know." And so other people come and say, "Why is your Christmas tree still up?" And I had someone last week come and say, "Hey, buddy, do you know that Christmas is over? You need to take that down." Pressure. And there's all kinds of pressures, funny and interesting pressures. Will Smith once said of the kind of pressure that we face in our society, he said, "We buy things we don't want with money we don't have to impress people we don't like." Pressure. There's a pressure to be perfect. There's a pressure to please people and always be liked. And a pressure to socialize, pressure to spiritualize, pressure to self-actualize. It isn't easy dealing with all of the pressures that go on in our lives, the changes, the demands of our times, the challenges, the decisions. And then there's the pressure of dealing with members of our family and people around us that are going through their own pressures and their own challenges. Kind of reminds me of this college student who wrote her parents a letter, and here's what she wrote. "Dear Mom and Dad, it has now been 3 months since I dropped out of college. Sorry for not having written sooner. I will bring you up to date on everything in my life, but before you read on, I think it's best that you sit down. Please don't worry, I'm feeling much, much better now. The skull fracture and concussion I got when I jumped out of my apartment when it caught on fire is almost totally healed. I spent only 2 weeks in the hospital. Fortunately, the fire and the jump were witnessed by Roger, a strong, burly, bearded biker who called the fire department and comforted me until the ambulance arrived. Roger was sweet enough to visit me in the hospital every single day. And since I had nowhere to live when I was discharged from the hospital, Roger invited me to live with him. And he took care of me 24/7 as he currently has no job. Roger is a very fine man, and we have fallen in love and we are planning to get married. We haven't set a date yet, but it will be before my pregnancy begins to show. His divorce is final now. And he shares custody of his 3 children. He is a great father. Now that I brought you up to date, I want to tell you that I didn't drop out of college. There was no fire. There was no concussion or skull fracture. I was not in the hospital. I'm not pregnant. I'm not engaged. And in fact, I'm not dating anyone. However, I am getting a D in art, an F in biology, and I need some extra spending money. I didn't want you to get stressed out about me doing poorly in school, so I just wanted to help you keep things in perspective. Love, your daughter, Jane. So, pressure. Pushing down on me, pressing down on you. No man asked for. Under pressure that burns a building down, splits a family in two, puts people on streets. There's no question that we all face a lot of different pressures in our lives. And the fact is, it has an impact on all of us. Pressure has an impact on all of us. And I don't think we realize how much pressure we're under all the time. And I don't think we realize that sometimes we struggle in the way that we cope with the pressures. There's mental, physical, and emotional stress on us. Sometimes we get ulcers and headaches, high blood pressure, heart issues. And sometimes we turn to things like alcohol, drugs, smoking, food, sex, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medication. And sometimes we hit those points where we want to scream, let me out. And people have committed suicide. There are a lot of pressures in our lives and in our culture that we don't realize. And in some ways, there are some pressures and there's some stressors that do help us achieve, that help us succeed. But there's a threshold that it crosses when it's not good, when it's not healthy. And it can be quite harmful. It can break us down. It can beat us down. And sometimes rob us of more joy than we realize. One of the great examples, and I've given it before, but it's the NFL great wide receiver Jerry Rice at his Hall of Fame speech. One of the things he said that I thought was so shocking, with all those Super Bowls, with all those records, he said that he didn't enjoy a lot of practice or a lot of the games because he was always worried about letting his father down. He was always wondering if he was good enough, always wondering if somebody would come along that would be better than him, that if he would lose his job. And what happened with even all that success and how fabulous it looked on the outside, it drained and sucked his joy, his energy, and it left him feeling a far emptier experience than you would think for all the great things that he went through. That inner pressure that we all feel does drain us and limit and diminish the quality of the amazing experience and gift of life that we have all been given. So my question for you is, where do you feel pressure in your life? Where are you putting too much pressure on yourself? And how is that pressure affecting you and the quality of your life? How many people know that you could probably do a little better job in handling the amount of pressure in your life? Great, 10 people, perfect. Every week you get it right. I'm ready for 10 people, 10 hands raised. It's amazing. So we are in the second of our annual 4-week series called The Songs of Life, because we all have a song that helped us through a difficult time, a song that inspires us and awakes us. I think music and songs can take us to a deeper level that the spoken word can't. It can uplift us, it can open us, and it can help us through difficult times. I was thrilled to be able to do the series on the music of Queen, the incredible music. And so the first week, last week, we did I Want to Break Free. And today we're going to do the song Under Pressure. Under Pressure was written in Montreux, Switzerland. And Queen actually bought what was then the best studio in Europe called Mountain Studios in Montreux, because Freddie loved Montreux. He'd always say, if you want your soul to feel peace, go to Montreux. And so they loved it. And the people there loved Freddie so much, they made a statue of him. And that's right at Lake Geneva, right where the Montreux Jazz Festival is. I've been there a couple of times, so once I tried to take a little picture of me and Freddie, but the closest I could get was right there. Because I was high, man. That's a big statue. And so the reason I bring it up is that's where Under Pressure was written. And so they were at their studio, and they heard that David Bowie was in town, so invited David Bowie over, and they were just kind of goofing around and thought, hey, why don't we try and write a song? And so the bass player came up with that bass line that's all famous, and Freddie did most of the writing, but David Bowie came up with an idea to go into the recording studio separately, each by themselves, and all of them record, and then put together everything. And so Freddie did all that vocalizing, and so Under Pressure is what they came up with. It was really cool because they wrote it in 24 hours. And they didn't get along so well. There was a lot of fighting between Freddie and Bowie, so they really lived a little bit of pressure as they wrote Under Pressure. Interestingly, Under Pressure was the second of the only two #1 hits of Queen in the UK. The first one was obviously Bohemian Rhapsody, and the second one was Under Pressure. You know, We Are the Champions, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, Somebody to Love, all were second. You know, they were #2, but Under Pressure, a 24-hour written song, was an amazing, amazing gift for all of them. And so as much as the song talks about pressure and warns us about the dangers of pressure, Under Pressure to me is a song of incredible hope. It is a song of knowing that life can get better and that there are solutions to handle these pressures we all go through, and so we can live a better life. And that line of hope and the line of optimism is when it says, pray tomorrow takes me higher, higher, higher. It is not just a statement of hope and optimism. I think it is a trust in the power of prayer, because holding a prayer in the midst of pressure actually calms us and brings us a sense of peace. That holding a mindset of prayer not only calms us, but it helps us rise above all the pressures and be able to maintain and handle them in a better way. Everybody remember that story in the New Testament, in the book of Matthew, when the disciples were in the boat and there was a storm going on and Jesus was walking on the water? And then Jesus calls Peter out of the boat, and Peter steps out of the boat. And when he looks at Christ, he stays above the water, amazingly. So he's standing on the water, looking at Christ, when he's focused on the Christ. But when he changes focus from the Christ to the crisis, the storm, guess what? He sank. And so it shows that when your mind is focused on a higher perspective, that you can stay above the storms of your life. The quieting the mind brings us peace and calmness that can help us handle all of the stresses of life. You know, Jesus often said, come apart a while and rest. And that was to just pull yourself away from all the distractions. Find that quiet place, and you will be able to live in more peace. And my father, one of his favorite lines from Philippians was that we can experience the peace of God that surpasses all human understanding. That regardless of all the stresses that are going on and all the pressure, that when you connect with that peace and quiet your mind, it will be a peace that beyond what you can understand. And so as powerful as the mind is in calming down and handling the pressures, the mind also can make things worse. And so here are two sets where the song warns us how to avoid having your mind make it worse. And it says these words, chipping around, kicking my brains on the floor. These are the days it never rains, but it pours. Anybody ever been alone and you were thinking about your problems and how they were going, and your mind just runs wild, and you become overwhelmed and stressed and think there's no way you're ever going to get this? We overthink and obsess. Anybody ever overthink and obsess on anything? And then we get so stressed, we get so overwhelmed. Our own minds, the one that was a moment ago calming itself down, can actually go wild and crazy and create even more stress. And then we make things even worse by beating ourselves up for not handling the stress in life situations as well. That we didn't make it to that level of success. We didn't achieve that thing we wanted to. And we just beat ourselves up. And so that's one of the ways we make stresses even worse. And then we go to the other extreme of trying to pretend and ignore. From overdoing it to like pretending it isn't there. And the words are, turn away from it all like a blind man. Sat on a fence, but it don't work. And so sometimes in our lives, the struggles and the pains, we try to pretend we're not hurting. We try to pretend in relationships and in businesses that nothing's wrong, that everything's just okay. And we try to cover it up hoping You know, we sit on a fence and not make a decision, thinking somehow it's going to get better. And the line says clearly, and it don't work. One of the most powerful books I read was a book by Bronnie Ware called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. And what she said, she gave what I consider a microcosm of how relationships go and how things can be unhealthy. She says often that the person that's dying is scared about dying, but don't want to admit it to the family, because then the family will start worrying about them, so they don't say anything. And then the family doesn't want to make the person who's dying feel uncomfortable about dying or bring it up. So they not only don't bring it up, they actually put out stuff like, hey, you're going to get better, even when they know that's not the case. So both sides don't want the other one to hurt, don't want to say what's uncomfortable, and what happens is both end up suffering. Just pretending, just glossing over it, trying to close a blind eye to it, just sitting on the fence, hoping somehow it will get better, and it doesn't. The pressure and the suffering continues with no one saying anything. And so we keep looking for the answer. How do we deal with the pressures and the stresses of life? And the song goes on, keep coming up with love, but it's so slashed and torn. Why? And so love is the answer to pressure, to my financial pressure, to my pressure at work. How is love? There's some skepticism about love being a cure and a benefit for pressure. I mean, love. And sometimes we've been hurt in love and disappointed in love and let down by love. So why should I trust love to help me in times of pressure? Would love really work? Is love really the solution to handling pressure? Well, maybe, when you consider God is love. When you consider the greatest commandment is to love. When you consider these three, faith, hope, and love, and the greatest of these is love. When Corinthians says, if you don't have love, you don't have anything. When Paul said, love is the fulfilling of the law. Maybe, when we're in love, what? We're alive. When we're in love, we're hopeful and joyful and enthusiastic and positive and kinder and gentle. I mean, could love be the answer to the pressures that we are under? We might have been disappointed in love, but it's still the answer. It is the thing that we seek and desire more than anything else in the world. And I think sometimes we forget how powerful love is. Here's the words of Emmett Fox, a spiritual writer who writes on the power of love. There is no difficulty that enough love will not conquer. No disease that enough love will not heal. No door that enough love will not open. It makes no difference how deep-seated the trouble is, how hopeless the outlook, how muddled the tangle, how great the mistake. A sufficient realization of love will dissolve it all. Only if you could love enough, you would be the happiest and the most powerful being in the world. And so the song continues to encourage us and says, why can't we give ourselves another chance? Why can't we give love that second chance? Why can't we give love? Give love. 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 Give love another chance. And I was listening and I thought, is he trying to say something? Could there be a message there? Could he be saying, give love another chance? And the fact is, it's important to not give up on love. No matter how hurt we've been, it's important to keep seeking love, keep yearning love, because it is the greatest thing in our lives. I think the song is saying, take a new look at love. Maybe renew your faith in love. Maybe let yourself go a little deeper in love than you ever have gone before. And I love the next line. It's my favorite in the song. And it says, and love dares you. Love dares you to care. I love that. The only time God challenges everybody in the Bible is in Malachi when he says, put me to the test. and see if I will not open the windows of heaven to you. And here God is saying, and this song is saying, I dare you to love more. Everybody remember Theodore Roosevelt's great speech in France many years ago called The Man in the Arena? And what it says is, everybody could be critics, but it's the one in there that's fighting and got dirt on their face. And even if they fail, at least if you try and even if you fail, you could feel good about yourself because you would have known that you have dared greatly. And I cannot think of anything to dare and anything greater to dare greatly with than to dare to love in a way you haven't loved. As much as you have loved right now, and I know many of you are good at loving, that there is a depth of love that you haven't allowed yourself to dare to go to. And that's what this song is saying. If you want to really overcome the pressures of life, dare to love and dare to care in a way you haven't allowed yourself to. Dare yourself to open your heart. Dare yourself to be more compassionate and kind to yourself and others in a way you haven't before, and you will break through those pressures and rise above in a greater way. It will expand your heart and your mind and your life. It will lift you to a higher and most amazing way of experiencing life. And here are the two ways it dares us to love. The first one, and love dares you to care for the people on the edge of the night. What I find interesting about these times is that with all of the iPhones and all these technologies, Insta this and Insta that, we can be in more contact and connection with people. You know, I know people who got 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 friends. And yet today, people report to be more lonely than they've ever been, to feel more isolated, to feel that there is nobody that cares, to feel that there's no one in their hour and time of need that would be there for them. It is one of the saddest things, and yet one of the great, wonderful opportunities that we have. Because I believe the most difficult times in our lives, the thing that makes it bearable, the unbearable bearable, is when we know that someone cares and is with us through that. Whether it's cancer, whether it's the loss of a loved one, loss of a job, or financial struggles, when you know that someone cares for you, when you know that someone is there for you, it makes a difference. I saw a fabulous quote in an article I read this week, and it said this: knowing that someone cares for us gives us more benefit than the actual act they do of caring for us. Does that make sense? Well, let me say it again. Just knowing that someone cares about us, just that alone gives us more comfort and benefit than them actually doing something for us. That's how much we need one another. I saw another fabulous quote, and I thought it was cute. It said, whenever you feel sad, just remember that there are billions of cells in your body, and all they care about is you. We all want to be cared for. And we all have the ability to reach out and dare to care for someone. And sometimes we think it's a big deal. It'll cost us a lot of money, cost us a lot of time. It isn't. It's just a lot easier than you think. 35 years ago, when I was paralyzed in a car accident the day I graduated from high school, it was on a remote road that was only just farmland, so it was like really out there. I got in the accident, and I'm laying there bleeding. I'm in pain. And some guy stops his car, and he comes over, and he holds my hand, and he's rubbing me, and he said, everything's going to be okay, kid. Everything's going to be okay. Had to wait what seemed like forever, but it was probably 20 or 30 minutes till the ambulance came. And this guy, they put me on the stretcher, put me in, and as they're closing the doors, he waves. I saw his face. And the fact is, I've never seen him again. I don't know his name. But I'll tell you, those 30 minutes, he held my hand. And knowing that someone cared and someone was with me, still to this day, means more to me than I can say. We think it's tough to reach out and dare to care and love and have compassion for someone. I would say it's a lot easier than you realize. I bet you've had someone in your life who's hugged you, given you a hug at the time you need it, given you an encouraging word or a smile. That's why we're here, to love one another. And it makes life worthwhile. You know, the Buddhists have it right when they say that the number one key to happiness is compassion. to care for everyone, to wish that no one would suffer, and to do your best to help bring some comfort and well-being to all people. And so my question is, how is life daring you? How is love daring you to reach out and show you care? Who is that person? Maybe they're in your house, maybe they're in a stranger, but it doesn't take as much as you think, and the impact of that is more powerful than we would believe or understand. And then the second thing, it says, love dares you to change our way of caring about ourselves. There's a line that says, be there for others, but never leave yourself behind. We find it so easy, sometimes more easy, to help somebody else, be kind to someone else, treat someone else well, buy someone some nice tickets for this or that, and yet we struggle at being that kind to ourselves. So sometimes when we're stressed, running, doing it for others, sometimes the best thing we could do is stop and ask, what do I need for myself? What do I need to take care of myself and to help myself and support myself? And unfortunately, we've grown up in a culture that thinks it's narcissistic or selfish or wrong or bad to love yourself, care for yourself, take care of yourself. And to me, it's the most important thing you can do. Because the more of a channel of light and love and peace, the more we care for ourselves, the more energy and light and love we have to share with other people. You know, it says in Scripture, you're the temple of the living God. Based on how you're caring for yourself, are you honoring yourself as the temple of the living God? You know, how are you supporting yourself and caring for yourself? And is there room for that? And so here are 4 things I'm going to recommend that you dare to change the way you care for yourself. The first one is to do something spiritual that nurtures you. And whether it's taking a meditation class or getting a CD and just chanting along or doing whatever it is, find some spiritual practice that'll help you take care of you, nurture you, support you. You know, my brother, who's visiting, he visits a couple times a year. November the 9th, 2011, he was coming down and he read a book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. Anybody ever heard of that book? Okay. And there are morning pages. He made a commitment on that day he was going to write. He was going to write and de-sludge and let these things go and flow. And he has done it consecutively from November the 9th, 2011 to today. In case you're wondering how many days that is in a row, it's 2,734 days in a row. And it sounds kind of interesting, but I think, and I didn't tell you this, but I think it's one of the greatest acts of self-care. He's got 6 kids for life, and just 15 or 20 minutes of writing down every day, to me, is an incredible act of self-care. You know, we think these self-care things have to be huge. They don't. They just need to be consistent. And they need to actually support your well-being and your happiness. So what's one spiritual practice that you would dare to help change how you care about yourself? The second one is to be a little kinder to yourself. I don't know about you, but I grew up and went through my own beat yourself up to personal development and growth school. I have a master's, I've been working on my PhD in that area. It is amazing how we beat ourselves up when we don't meet whatever standard we think. You know, we hate our thighs, we hate our nose, we hate the way we look. You didn't earn enough money, why didn't you? One of the best things we could do is just be a little kinder to yourself. Maybe just stop judging. Maybe stop comparing, stop beating up and criticizing. Just stopping that and being kinder is one of the best self-care things that we could do. Another one is just try something new or plan for something you've always wanted to do. Like if you always wanted to take a cruise to South America, start planning it. If you want to be a little more social, why don't you have a dinner party? You know, if you want to be healthier, why not go get a physical or take a yoga class or get a massage? You know, I mean, there are all kinds of things that we could be doing for ourselves. Just do something kind for ourselves. Maybe go to a therapist and start doing some healing work. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to start taking harmonica lessons. And so I didn't intend that to be a joke, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. Maybe it's the music and me juxtaposition that's ironic. But anyway, And here's the thing. The best thing you can do for your family and your relationship is take care of you. Because I guarantee you, the better you take care of you, there will be more light and peace and love in you, and that person will notice it. In fact, that person will feed off of it. It will actually help both of you get better. And it's not selfishness. It is an act of self-love. Love is daring you to change the way you care for yourself. So how can you change the way you care for yourself that will bless you, but also, I guarantee you, it will bless the people around you? Pressure. Every one of us experiences it in every single form. And some days we want to scream, let me out. It can bring buildings down. It can split families in two, but it doesn't need to. To hold a prayer of something greater and better, and to know that love is the way. That love, give love a chance. Let it dare you to care for others in a greater way. Let it dare you to care for you in a greater way. And I guarantee you, it will transform you. It will uplift you. It will make your life better in so many ways. Love is the thing that will help your life in all ways, even under pressure. God bless you all.